But without further ado, I want to get into tonight's guest because, I mean, every once in a while you get to speak with someone that's layered. You know, most of the people that come, well, some of the people that come on here, they're pushing their product or they're talking about their book or their mobile app or certain things they can do. I say about 5 months ago, I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Christopher Whalen through another outlet, through the Foxhole Father, which is a wonderful book that every dad should pick up because it gives you all the different scenarios. Later on tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about Foxhole Father, but immediately we're about to bring on Mr. Christopher Whalen, and we're going to talk about, you know, this tax season is likely to be the worst in years for the IRS and potentially for taxpayers. So tonight we're not talking sports or football stats or the latest in tech or, you know, this person pushing a book. We're talking about someone who's providing a service. And he provides a service every day to the people out in the Red Bank, New Jersey area. But I'm sure his focus is not just down there. It's all over. And that's only one piece of a service he provides. So we're talking with someone who's not only he's a dad, he's a single dad, he's doing it the right way, he's a mentor, he's a leader, but also you always need someone that can help you with your finances. You can't be afraid to reach out. So without further ado, we're going to bring on Chris. How you doing?
Hey, good evening. I'm doing very well, thank you.
Great, that's great. Chris, we're really excited to have you tonight, and I've mentioned to our listeners, the folks that are listening live now and those that will be listening to the podcast, this is going to be a little bit of a different show than what's usually expected from our weekly show. Last week we had a 2-hour show where we talked about everything. We talked about preparation for SAT exams. We talked about parenting skills. We've talked about children's clothing. We talked a little NBA basketball. We talked about a mother who dealt with her son who had Crohn's disease and how she dealt with it. And just to continue with this, but you bring so many different special skills, we wanted to make sure we gave you an adequate amount of time to sit and talk and just embellish on what's going on in your life, what's going on with Foxhole Father, and how can we help out the parents that are like myself, that are TurboTax users. We've taken the business back from the CPA,
right.
And I'm going to do my own taxes. So I thought it was appropriate to have you on, and I just wanted to give you the floor to initially introduce yourself, reintroduce yourself to the folks that don't remember the Foxhole Father.
Well, thank you, Ted. I'm Chris Whalen, CPA. I have a certified public accounting firm here in New Jersey. I service the U.S., of course, and international clients. I focus on small to medium-sized businesses and family needs, everything from small businesses to estate work and working with lawyers on forensic accounting. But my focus all day is dealing with planning for long-term for families to make sure that we save as much tax as we possibly can, plan for the future. One of my philosophies is that we really need to have a business, especially for small business owners, should just be a means to get to a retirement place. And that should be a daily part of our thinking, our budgeting, our saving for that goal. And a lot of the clients I meet at first they're just trying to get by during the day. So I have a much more long-term focused approach, and it seems to work, and my clients really appreciate it.
Chris, that's excellent. I guess we're just going to get right into it because some of these topics might seem to be controversial for some people, some might not. We're going to touch upon a lot of different topics, and that's the real reason we wanted you here for an hour.
I have some good tips. I'm sorry.
No. I just wanted to say, so we're going to bounce around from here to there. you have some great memos that you provided to me that we will put on latenightparents.com, but I just didn't want to reveal our hand so soon.
Right.
Because, I mean, it was so helpful. So I'll give you my scenario, and then we'll go back and forth on it. So I had an accountant, I had a CPA who used to do my taxes every year for my family. I decided, and he was doing my taxes maybe from, I would say about 1996, 97, around about the time I got married.
Okay.
And so here's the scenario. The scenario is he did my taxes when I lived in New York. He did my taxes when I lived in Florida, when the kids were born. But what I decided was, I think around maybe 2008, 2009, it was so transparent to me that originally, and I'll leave the accountant nameless, he used to make on-site visits, but he stopped making them, and he was basically like, hey, just mail me the stuff, mail me your forms. I'll send a, already postage envelope. You mail me everything. I'll get the stuff taken care of, and I'll send it back to you, and I'll speak with you on the phone. And it kind of reminded me of Thomas Friedman's book, The World is Flat.
Right.
Where this type of service could be done anywhere. So to make a long story short, I decided to take the taxes, that service, and start to do them myself. But I got to tell you, every now and then, I question myself on certain things that I can take deductions out. Am I taking enough out? What taxes changed?
Right.
So, here's the smart guy, who's the IT guy, who's the business administration degree person that's too smart for his own good. What do you say to a person like that, the type of service that you can provide?
Well, first of all, I do this every day, 24/7. So I usually use the analogy that you could also do your own root canal, and that might come out okay. But you have to be very careful that the few $100s you might spend to have someone prepare your return, with the frustration and the hours you're spending, and plus the lack of confidence you might have, those hours should be spent running your own business, trying to market. If you should be able to go out and make that money doing what you do, and you should. Part of my business consulting I do, management consulting I do on a daily basis, is I'm teaching people to defer to other professionals clerical things in their life. And this is something that you don't do, and you should defer. I would go to a lawyer to have a will made. So it's just good business practice to give it over to another professional who can prepare it for you, and then that person's available to you also during the year, which is a good thing to have. So, if you look at my service, I'm available to my clients. I'm constantly giving them updated memos and information that are keeping them abreast of what's happening and impacting their life ongoing. So you can do it yourself, but you really should go to a seasoned person to get anything done at this level. It's so complex, and some of the things I'll talk about tonight with Obamacare, for example, are so incredibly complex. It's so easy to make a mistake that, you should be sitting in your backyard, at the pool for a few hours instead of doing this, and let a professional do it. It really should be done. It's so incredibly difficult, and also the other thing you have with self-preparers, I just did a memo on it, that the self-filers have been targeted. A lot of like TurboTaxes and other services like eTax haven't said it, but there was a data breach where people's passwords were compromised. And, for example, H&R Block Online, there's millions of people who had their passwords compromised, and their returns were already filed and refunds gotten. Now these people have to go through the identity theft, scenario. So you really want to be extra careful and bring it into a secure environment. Doing something online with a TurboTax is not secure. Also, if you do have someone prepare your return, you really have to remember that a lot of them are using foreign preparers, cheap labor in India, and they're scanning your documents and sending it over there over the web online. It's terrible. So really ask your accountant if your documents ever leave electronically or physically his or her office. because a lot of medium and large firms are doing that. They outsource, and they're not telling their clients that they're doing that. So the answer is come and have a meeting with me, have a free consultation with me, bring me your prior year's returns, and let's talk about what I do, how I do it. Yes, I'm much different than other preparers on the corner, and hopefully we can create a relationship, a long-term relationship for me and your family, and you'll want to bring me into your family as a partner to go forward to handle this, plus larger financial issues that you're going to need advice on going forward. You can do your own taxes via TurboTax right now, but what if you have a significant question 2 weeks from now? People are going to the internet. You know, it's like going to WebMD when you have a stomach ache. So you need to, in today's financial and tax environment, you need a seasoned professional to reach out to via email, text, or call, who will take your call and help you out during the year if you need to. And that's one of the most significant benefits that you have when you hire someone like me.
Chris, I'm here laughing, and I was clapping. I don't know if you heard the sound effects because you hit on so many key points, because I want to take a step back and say, okay, there are the tax preparers that are outsourcing that work overseas. Mm-hmm. And at the start of this conversation, I started talking about The World is Flat by Thomas Friedman, because he talked about, in the book, it's all about how the technology is changing and evolving and how it's part of everything, and how, over the last 10 years or so, we've dealt with outsourcing. We've dealt with, you're dealing with one person or a specific company, but the actual company that work is being subletted to, you're like, who is this company?
Right.
So it's so important. And the whole data breach and tax, the personally identifiable information that's out there. When you say the terms like PII, people don't know what that means, but they really don't know until their identity is stolen. And like you said, they go to file, and it's like, okay, it's already been filed. Right. So
I had 20 of them this week. I had 20 people since last Thursday that have come to me because they were on with an online service. Their data was breached, and returns were filed with their socials and their kids' socials, and now they can't file because they're already e-filed technically. We have to go through a very expensive, long process to get them PIN numbers and to get them filed, and it's going to probably take a year or 18 months to get their refunds now. So this is very serious, and it's not just about doing the tax return by yourself. It's about having safeguards. And another thing about preparers, my office is highly technical. We keep no paper. Everything is scanned and digitized on an encrypted, secure server, so you get all your paper back. And I want to mention that if people do mail me things from around the world, and that can be okay, FedEx, I do get that every day. I have video conference calls with clients all day about things. So face-to-face meetings are happening over the Internet. So that's very effective. You want to ask your preparer, if you have one, what kind of safeguards do you have in your office? Do you have my paper? Do you have an alarm system? Do you have a sprinkler system that could ruin my documents? Do you have file-proof file cabinets? Do you have a digital disaster recovery system that Chris Whalen has to make sure that if I need documents back from you, I can get them?
Chris, I at the start of this show, I said we won't be getting tech, but you're getting tech, because now we're talking about disaster recovery.
Of course.
And I love this. I want to, before we jump into Obamacare, I want to say a couple of things about that. Here are some things the IRS says to keep in mind to avoid being a victim of tax scams. It says the IRS will not initiate contact with you via phone or email or ask for your personal or financial information. Government loves a paper trail. The IRS will write you first.
Right. Exactly.
What are some of your thoughts on that?
Right, I think you're reading from one of my memos, and that's great, right? There's a lot of scams going on, and if people really pay attention, because I get calls about this every day, the IRS does not have the ability to email anybody. they would never email anyone. So if you get any email that looks IRS, irs.gov, that doesn't exist. So make sure you put it to spam, report it as phishing, PHISH, phishing.
Right.
Also, phone calls. People are getting these calls that, you owe money. And if you ever get a call from someone that says they're from the IRS, that you owe them money, tell them to call me. That's what I want you to do. Tell them to call me, that I represent you. I want to talk to them for you. So that's a scam phone call. Don't be scared. People are running to Walmart, getting debit cards. Just if any of these things happen, this is why it's good to have someone like me, for example. I want everyone, they should take my phone number down. It's right on my website, chriswhalencpa.com. If you have any question of any kind, if you're nervous about something, worried, you get something in the mail, you get a phone call me immediately. That's why I'm here, to make sure you know what's happening and should you be worried, should you react. So, yes, there's fake emails. The IRS would never email you. The IRS would never call you directly. Before the IRS ever called you directly, there's so much paper that goes on for a year or two, you would have hired me already to talk to them for you. Okay, so that will never happen. Never gets there. Right. There's a few other things. I want a few tips, especially for business owners. That I'd like to. If I can add in one or two things right now, Ted, it's a good time.
Sure.
All right. So the IRS is very busy, not only this time of year, but when you need to call the IRS, you call at 2:00 in the afternoon, okay, and they say there's a 3-hour wait. So. What you want to do, people don't realize that a lot of the IRS service centers, and if you reach out to me, I could send you a nice master list of direct numbers to direct departments to stop you from having to hit menus 1 through 7 for 15 minutes to get there. And some of these places open 7 a.m. Eastern time. So if I can show you what numbers to call, what time they open, sometimes you only have to wait 5 minutes. So these are some of the things I can help with. People get frustrated, then things go on for weeks and months, and then they're late, but they've tried. So reaching out to me, I can help you get in touch with them faster, okay?
Oh, yeah, I got you. So
okay.
We're going to...
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
One last thing I want to talk about is the home office expense for small businesses. Very important. There's a home office deduction. There's been a lot of myth out there that that's a target for an IRS audit, and that is not true. There was a time where they targeted just for a sample many years ago, but there is a safe harbor home office where you don't have to put down all of the information. It gives you a basic amount per square foot that's very easy and quick to do, and I don't think some of the online services like TurboTax are doing it correctly. So I also have a nice memo on that. So if you've been avoiding taking the home office or don't know what it's about, if you do have an exclusive area in your home that you're using for your business, don't miss out on this. It's a legitimate expense, and I could easily show you how to do it. I have memos on it I could send you anytime to show you how to do it.
Understood.
Okay?
I want to jump into Obamacare.
Okay.
I want to jump into it. Okay, we can go from the perspective of I have a business and, or I can go into, I didn't have insurance. I previously didn't have insurance for my small business, but now, through Obamacare, we were able to get, the insurance, and from a business perspective or from just, someone single that's filing.
Sure. And I wanted to go over some basics if I could. Just some of the basics, if that okay. So, of course, starting in 2014, everyone except if you have an exemption, which I'll go over those, are supposed to have health coverage. Now, that could be through your employer, as traditionally done, or through the exchange or the marketplace. So, but one of the major things that's happened is you're going to start to get an extra form at the end of the year from whoever you have insurance that talks about the coverage you have. So that's very important to look for these forms. Now, last year, 2014, they wanted to have all three of these. They wanted to have all of the forms ready. There was going to be a form for the exchange, a 1095A. Then there was going to be a form if you had an employer-provided plan, another 1095, and also if you had a traditional health insurance plan. So I want everyone to look for those, especially people who were on the exchange from 2014. They should have had this already because there's a lot of very important information on there. It's sort of a complex form that you're going to need to put on your tax return to see if you get a subsidy or if you were paid too much in a premium tax credit. So that's important. So now, but in 2015, everyone that has insurance will be getting one of these three forms. And it's very important to make sure that the correct information is on them. That's at the end of this year, even people that work for someone. Now, the exemptions are, I want to just go over the exemptions. So who's exempt? Who does not have to have insurance? Who doesn't pay a penalty, in essence? Okay, if I can go over that for a minute. And this is very important because you might fall into one of these categories and then you might not have to pay a penalty. So, for example, if you were homeless, if you were evicted in the past 6 months, or if you're facing eviction or foreclosure, a lot of people have had mortgage trouble. And if they're in the foreclosure process, which sometimes people are lasting many years now, that's an exemption. If you received a shut-off notice from a utility company, if you recently experienced domestic violence, if you had a death of a close family member, you had a natural disaster, fire or flood, you filed for bankruptcy in the last 6 months. A few of them go on. So if you reach out to me, I have this in a memo right on my website, chriswhalencpa.com, in the memos area. You'll see it right there up front for you. It gives a nice, clear list of what the exemptions are. See if you fall into one of them. It only takes a few minutes, and it's well worth it. Now, one of the things that Obamacare wants to do is that it wants to take away the benefit of having a group plan. So if you had a small business with your husband and wife and a worker, you could have a nice group medical plan and get a reduced rate. So then if you were an individual, it was much more expensive. So Obamacare, of course, is hurting business again. It's taking away all that benefit. That's why things are more expensive. The deductibles are astronomical. It's terrible. So it really hurts small business very much. It's a terrible thing. So now, no matter where you get insurance, the coverage should be the same cost, technically. That's the logic of what they were trying to do. So the important forms now, if you do have Obamacare, there's a form in 8962. It's a brand new form. And what that is used for, you're going to take that 1095 information I spoke of a few moments ago, and that's going to be placed in this form, and it's going to calculate what your premium tax credit should be. So sometimes people get a subsidy ahead of time. That's going to be on this form you get, and you need to put it down, and they're going to calculate based on your income and a lot of other things. Should you have gotten that subsidy, and are you owed more subsidy, or do you owe a rebate? It's a very complex form. I urge people, yes, I know it sounds self-serving, to have a professional do this. It's very easy to make a mistake, or take your time, email me with questions. So that's an 8962 form. That's a brand new form to get familiar with. Then the next form that's close to that is the 8965 form. The 8965 form is the form, if you don't have an exemption and don't have insurance, that you're going to need to calculate your penalty. Yes, you have to pay a penalty that's going to go directly on your return. Now, this is very interesting that I want everyone to realize what the government has done. The government is now using the IRS, which is the most feared organization in the world, worse than the mafia, to collect this and enforce Obamacare. That's what's happening here. So can I go on for another minute, Ted? Is that okay?
Chris, we're fine. Go.
Okay, great. So just so you know, these penalties start small in 2014 and then they increase. So just to give you an idea, the maximum penalty in 2014 is $285. The maximum penalty in 2015 is $975. 2016, it's $2,085. So next year, at the end of next year, people could be looking at $2,085 of penalty for not having health insurance. Hopefully, it will be repealed by then. It really hurts people. So that's some of the basics for Obamacare. I wanted to go over some of the forms, what's happening with the penalty, just to give some because people don't even know what's happening. What is my potential penalty? Now at least I've given you that, so people could maybe breathe easier and budget for that. And you said you want to talk a little bit about small business and what's happening with Obamacare?
Correct.
Right. So, of course, we know with a certain amount of employees, if you have a certain amount of employees, you have to provide coverage or you get a penalty for full-time people. Now, everyone's heard of the news, and I've seen it happen across the board. People are reducing hours to under 30 hours a week.
Yes.
And so this hurts. This has hurt lower-income people more than anybody in a few ways. Number one, in order to file the paperwork, you have to hire someone to do it. Just like the earned income credit. The lowest income people who need help have to go to somebody to get this done correctly. So small business are starting to outsource more. This is hurting employment.
Right.
It's forcing people to say, no, you're a subcontractor now.
Chris, I have to stop you for a second because this kind of hits home, and I've seen this personally with different organizations where these what used to be the 40-hour-a-week employee is now outsourced to an agency that is providing various services. So it's more it's like, okay, nowadays companies would rather pay more in that specific service than to I guess they're going to save overall with the employee package along with the full benefits package. So I've seen that, and then on top of that, from the outsourcer, I've seen them not give their specific employees 32 hours because that magic number 32. So I just had to stop you right there because it just resonated with me where I've seen it happen, and I first heard about this on NPR. So it was like maybe 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm listening. I'm on my way driving to work, and I hear it on NPR. This is like maybe about 5-6 years ago, and they were talking about the new norm. This being the new norm. This is before the whole Obamacare really kicked in. Okay, I just wanted to interject with that.
Well, it's like all entitlement. So just in general, it hurts. It's something that they want to keep lower income people saddled to the government because it's for votes. So what's happening here is that the people get more and more disenfranchised when they lose full-time work. It hurts the next generation to see this as normal. So they, of course, become more and more on the public entitlement dole, if you will. And that's, yes, it hurts me because I pay a lot of taxes, but it hurts them. The whole 99%, 1% argument we've had over the years has nothing to do with the 1%. They pay plenty of tax, trust me. The issue is that its entitlements are strangling people, and they look, like, for example, look since 1970, look at out-of-wedlock birth rates and things like that. The only difference now is so there's a lot of things that happen that liberal policies are to maintain votes, but it's hurting the lower income people worse than anybody. I have high taxpayers that are bothered, but believe me, I do a lot of volunteer work with the formerly incarcerated. Trust me, these people have been so hurt by the entitlement system. That's a 3-hour conversation.
Gotcha. So I guess as we wrap this up, I want to briefly go into, I'm going to say these three numbers, 529, and why they matter so much, and why would you, when you're performing your service, let's say whether it's a business or just someone just filing their specific taxes, why would you say the number's 529 to them?
Well, 529, especially for New York taxpayers, this is one of my notes here, glad you brought it up, is that you can get a tax deduction up to $10,000 for a married couple for making a direct contribution to a 529 plan, and that grows tax-free. And if you take it out for education expenses, it's still tax-free. So let's imagine why that's such a significant interest. The interest rates now are terrible. CD rates are 0.9. We all know there's no benefit in putting money in a savings account. But imagine you're in a higher New York bracket, 7-8%. So I put in $10,000. I save $800 immediately. That $10,000 only cost me $9,200, really. and then that $10,000 grows tax-free. I have a 1-year-old, 17 years later, that money could double. I take it out. I've paid no tax. I will pay no tax on the growth, and I've saved $800 to begin with. It's a no-brainer if you have children and you live in New York especially. The good thing about the 529s is that they're conservative. They have state plans. You really can't invest in something that's going to be a dog because they want to make sure it's saved money. But certain states, especially New York, that allows a deduction on the tax return is if you have any money and you could put it towards that's the savings you want to put it towards. It's instant interest at the tax rate that you're going to save. It's a no-brainer.
Chris, that's excellent information. Hey, I do want to ask you a question on at the onset of the show. I mentioned this tax season is likely to be the worst in years for the IRS and potentially for the taxpayers. You've kind of outlined some of that. I mean, I don't know if I'm a little bit, if I'm more scared now after this call. Or, I mean, I know I'm really more educated on this issue, and I'm hoping that other folks are educated and they see a benefit to having a preparer, having a CPA, to work with them hand in hand as a partner.
And so the sad part is that a lot of taxpayers should not need someone like me. It would be great if there was a flat tax. Let me just do my business work and consulting and making sure the business income and expenses are right. So this is a shame that it's so complex. Trust me. But yes, you have to consider. This is what's interesting. People care more about hitting their shin and getting it looked at than their taxes, which is the main part of their financial life, which is then exposed to the major, largest financial regulatory firm in the world, the IRS. So people need to really take a really hard look at who they're dealing with. Now, very important point about the IRS. They are not a sharpshooter waiting around the corner. They don't have advanced computers with everything. Absolutely not. The problem with the IRS is they are more like a sleepwalking giant in a village of little people. So 95% of notices I get are incorrect. So if you do your tax return incorrectly and you get a notice, that can take you so long to fix, and sometimes people throw up their hands and pay. So dealing with the mess that the IRS is that's what you're up against. That's why you need someone really to make sure things are right and to protect you and insulate you going forward. So, and doing this work every day, dealing with the IRS, I know on the back end and the front end and everything else how to present things correctly and honestly, but in a way that's going to minimize your risk of them making a mistake in looking at you. You understand?
Totally. Gotcha.
Right. So,
gotcha.
So have a consultation with me. And I agree. If you've met other accountants, then I agree. My phone's ringing off the hook. And basically, I feel like I want to be the best at what I do. But the second thing, which is really the most important thing, is that I genuinely care about you and your family and that taking on this responsibility and what it means to you. And I genuinely know that I have that more than most people on the street. So I urge everyone to reach out to me. My website is chriswhalencpa.com. That's WHALEN CPA.com, Chris Whalen. My phone number is right there. My email is right there. Call me, email me. We could set up a phone consultation. Any questions you might have about these topics or anything else that you might have in business or taxes that you feel you want my input on, I would be more than happy to help any of Ted's listeners anytime.
Chris, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to switch gears, okay? We're going to take a quick 25-second break.
You got it.
And we're back. We spent the last 35 minutes with Chris Whalen CPA, providing tips to parents that are preparing for the tax season, those that, we've given you various situations that, you might fall into. Really helpful. But I wanted to shift gears and speak with our featured guest, Chris Whalen, but he's going to put on a different hat. He's going to put on the Foxhole Father hat because there's something special. There's something special that I wanted to cover in this last segment. Chris, you and I met, many, many months ago, and you came on the show, and it was a great interview, great segment about Foxhole Father. And I just wanted to do a recap because I want to really see from that time that we spoke in September what's happened with the Foxhole Father, your initiative for dads. Your book is great and everything, and I just wanted to just check in and see what's the next phase.
Well, thank you very much. Of course, my main vocation is I am the father now of 3 grown, beautiful daughters. Last September or October 1st, I put out a book, Foxhole Father, The Field Guide for Fathers. It's available on Amazon. And basically, in a nutshell, it tries to teach fathers or men how to be the masculine, non-judgmental sanctuary for their children. And that's what the book is about. And since then, I've done some marketing, some book signings. I've done, which has really been fantastic. I had a really good sales level over Christmas time from in the country and around the world. I've been working with local fathering groups and national fathering groups. I'm going to be working on speaking at some conventions this summer coming up in the fall as a keynote speaker around the country. I've been all over New Jersey and New York speaking. I'm invited to speak at some symposiums on parenting. Again, going to speak different organizations, different groups, parenting groups, a lot of PTA groups. I have a very special presentation I do for PTAs that I've done for a long time, and so that's something I come and do for free at a PTA in New York and New Jersey, so feel free to reach out to me for that. And it's just very heartening. One of the best things I've found is my book is geared towards men, and I found that women are buying the book and giving it to their spouse or significant other, and they're reading it. And a lot of women have written to me, many have written to me, said, they want their husband to be this way. So I'm very heartened. It's a very positive book. It's a direct book, and it's really meant for men, single fathers or men who are married or in committed relationships, to read from a man's perspective of, I've had custody of my kids, shared custody since 1997, at least half the time. I've had all the weekend days really since then, so I know what it's like to be in the trenches having to make decisions as just a guy trying to do my best. I'm out here with a business, and suddenly I was thrust into a world where I had to really do the work domestically and make decisions and really guide these children on the days that I had them. And that I didn't have the confidence for that. So this book really gives you a lot of scenarios, a lot of topics. With my direct advice, as if you're sitting across the desk from me, just like we talked about our taxes. It is a direct, it's not fluffy, it's man-to-man, bullet pointed. So please go on to Amazon's Foxhole Father, Field Guide for Fathers. Please go on and take a look at it. If you have a father, if you are a father, please go on and to take a look at it. It's really a very positive thing. There's a lot of good reviews on there right now.
That's great. It is a great book. You are a wonderful person. I do want to mention one thing, and the one thing here is, of all the public speaking that you do, tell us something about there's a potential for a future podcast?
Yes, definitely. I'm working on a podcast right now, right after tax season. Actually, 2 different things. Number one, for single dads especially, let's say you're a dad, you have your kids every other weekend. One of the things I was up against, I get my kids Friday after school, and I'm going to have them till Monday morning. What can I do with them? How do I keep them occupied? How do I, sometimes on a limited budget, do educational things around the house? So I've actually partnered with a woman named Blythe Lippman is her name, and she's a fantastic author from Arizona, an expert on baby and toddler instructions. She has a fantastic podcast too. So I'm going to be doing a podcast on Tuesday nights that's meant for dads who have their kids on Wednesday night. So they have their kids Wednesday night for dinner, and then they're going to see them on the weekend. So it's going to be a short podcast meant to give ideas, to give them incentive, give them confidence, everything from decorating or helping with events, or how do I go to a holiday party now that I'm alone? What do I do? Like I have men calling me in the holiday. They emailed me, then I called them. They said, well, Chris, first year I'm going to have my kids by myself. My ex-wife used to do all of this, buy presents, buy flowers, buy the wine. They have no idea what to do. How do I go and bring a 4-year-old out to get a dress for a Christmas party? So it's these kind of things that men are reaching out to me, and that's part of what the podcast is going to be. Just like today talking to you, effective, not fluffy, real information meant to empower men to have the confidence to do things, to realize, hey, you can be I'm a masculine person. I don't have to change my masculine sensibility in order to effectively parent my children. That's part of the issue. Men think they need to feminize themselves, and there's no need. Masculine has been demonized for 20, 30 years, and that's crazy. In my book, I talk about what is the true definition of a masculine person. What does it mean to be a masculine man, and what are the benefits you bring to your children, and they need that masculine sensibility in order to grow properly. So embrace it. Embrace your masculine sensibility and use it, and that's what my book is about.
Chris, I will say this much. Your podcast, if it's anything like the way you present taxes or the way you have presented the Foxhole Father, that whole persona, that part of your life, I will tell you this much. You might record your podcast with with your partner, but I will tell you that I will have a couple of places that will re-air your podcast immediately because it's needed. It's needed amongst us men because, you go anywhere, you're kind of looking around or you're kind of unsure because we don't have that outlet. We don't have shows that's your upcoming show. We don't have shows like that. We don't have shows that are similar to this that allow you to that forum. So I'm really, really interested about that, and any support that you need, I'm here as always.
Of course. I know that. Can I mention one other thing about it? It's parenting, but it's about the FAFSA, the financial aid form. It's one thing because this helps people. That the financial aid form, the FAFSA, is usually due by February 15th. Now, everyone scrambles to get their taxes done. Remember that you can go on to the FAFSA.gov, you can go on, and you can put in your estimated numbers just to get it in there. Now, online, if you're first time doing this, it can feel daunting, but if you already have e-filed your returns for you and your child, if your child has one, there is a way to use an IRS retrieval tool on there to get your data brought in directly, your income data. Now, if you have your tax return in front of you and it's been e-filed in the past couple of weeks, there's a way to say, no, don't bring that data in from the IRS. Take your numbers from your tax return. So don't hesitate to get your FAFSA done, even if you have draft numbers on a tax return right now. Get it in so the schools in question are going to get that basic information and start the process of awards and letters for your child in their financial aid office. So, again, if you have any questions about this or anything else, go to my website, chriswhalencpa.com, email me directly, call me. I will definitely help you and direct you in any way I can. So before you pull the trigger and say submit, that's why it's sometimes better to make the call to Chris Whalen, I'd say. Before you hit the submit button, maybe call me. Just give me 5 minutes of your time.
Got you.
Right.
Got you. Chris, I will tell you this much. We have your picture and we have your business card on our Facebook page, Facebook.com/Late Night Parents. We have it up there. We're going to have it up on the Twitter feed also, your business card, because something like this, please. Events like this only happen once in a while, and I appreciate you taking the time out tonight. I mean, I know you and I have talked offline, and whether it's talking or texting, so it's so important to get this type of information out because there are a lack of forums. You can only go to Google so much, or like the reference you used earlier about WebMD. Hey, I have this pain in my neck, but I'm not sure what it is. Let me go to WebMD. And you're like,
right.
and what did you put in?
Well, we talk about plans. So part of my plan is my website, which is being updated constantly. I'm developing I've taken my time since I put the book out. I've just been listening to people and talking to people around the world. I got an email from Kazakhstan 2 days ago. So I'm seeing what do people want. I'm taking my time, and part of what I know is a forum area in my website would be great with topics, so men around the world can start talking to each other. So that's going to be an enhancement after tax season's over. One thing I'm working on is eventually I want a fatherhood summit that's simulcast internationally. I want to take over Radio City Music Hall for a day, have people like you, like me, speak a whole day of male empowerment. And simulcast around the world. That's part of course, It's a great vision, but that's where we should be going. We should be talking about how men have been marginalized. There's so many things that we should talk about that we can express ourselves. We can be strong. We should retake some of our positions that we have let go, especially young men. We have a parenting problem in this country. When one of my podcasts I want to do is a parental indictment podcast. There's a lot of things happening in the world where people never talk about the parents. For a quick example, college rape. I mean, if a predator gets to college, we have problems long before he became a freshman. And so people have, and this is part of the liberal establishment, has tried to give parents work to do to feed the corporate machine. And they'll do things like feed your kids lunch, and they'll talk about college rape. Colleges can't even educate kids properly. They shouldn't worry about things like this. So parents need to be held accountable. As soon as there's a rape allegation or a guilty verdict, parents should be on the line. That's where the TMZ reporters should go and say, please give the American people the benefit of seeing what you did wrong so we don't repeat your bad parenting that created this predator monster. So people have to make parents much more accountable, and like they used to be. There used to be shame. There used to be guilt. And so that's part of what I'm bringing back, and that has to do with fathering. Fathers have been so feminized in a lot of ways the past 20, 30 years, and their role is so significant, as well as the mother's role, to bring up solid children that are good citizens, that are looking to look inside themselves for their achievement and to be better for society and for their family. So that's all part of my movement. That's a big part of hey, men, we really need to stop using the Xbox when you have a 3-year-old. We really need to, but that's because men have been marginalized. They are so insecure, they don't know what to do with themselves. And so that's part of what I'm trying to do with my Foxhole Father movement.
Got you. Totally got you. Chris, it's been wonderful having you here tonight. We're going to actually have to have you back because we're going to do a future show, and we're going to talk about what happened with Vandy, with the rape in Vandy. We're going to talk about that. We're going to have a few other experts on. I'm probably going to pull you for that because, it's a serious topic. But tell us the best way to get in contact with you professionally and professionally.
Well, all over the electronic world, I'm always Chris Whalen CPA. So ChrisWhalen CPA. That's my email at Gmail. That's my website. That's my Twitter handle. So if you were to type in Chris Whalen CPA in 3 separate words online, I come up first in Google. You'll see me. So my website's there. Go to my website. My phone number is on the main page. You can go to my contact page, email me. You can tweet to me. If the phone number I give you on my website is my cell number. So I tell everyone you can text me things directly with that number. I'm totally accessible. I answer my phone. The phone is for me when my clients call me. And everyone listening is, of course, my future potential clients, so you get the same level of service that my existing clients do. So I really urge everyone to go to my website. The memos page is very informative. It's free information on so many topics. And if you see something you're not sure of, if you need more information, again, please email me. There's no obligation. It's a free service. I give free consultations, especially for TED's listeners. I'm really looking to help. This time of year, people are so nervous and anxious, especially self-filers of their taxes, and there's no need to be. You can be confident. There's a way to make hard decisions, get these taxes filed, But when you leave my office, you know you've been educated. You know that you've done everything you can to know your all your options and what your possible advantages and disadvantages are, and you've made the right decision for your family. And that kind of confidence, I'll ask everyone here, have you ever had that level of confidence with any accountant or lawyer you've dealt with? If you have, go back to them. If not, call me, please.
Gotcha. Chris, we want to give you a round of applause for a great night, great hour discussion.
Thank you.
Chris, thank you so much, and we will definitely be talking in the future.
Thank you, Ted, very much. Good night to everybody.
And that was Chris Whalen, the Foxhole father, the CPA, just overall a good person. We want to thank everyone for listening to the show tonight. We're going to be back next week, and we say we love you and thank you, and we're closing.